Joining us now, News for Jack's political analyst, Jennifer Carroll, back here on the morning show. Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
So the reaction from the House GOP about the meeting with Paul Ryan yesterday was it's not enough. But Paul Ryan comes out and some of the other GOP leadership and said it's a step toward unification. Rhetoric or reality?
Both. And here's the thing, that Paul Ryan, his whole world as he knows it, because he's an establishment, elite Republican politician. So Donald Trump is upsetting the whole apple cart as to how these politicians have operated in Washington, D.C. The people have voted for an outsider consistently. So Paul Ryan has been in Washington, D.C. ever since he's been an adult. So throughout, that's all he knows. So now Donald Trump comes in to be the standard bearer of the party, and it's very hard for some people to swallow. But the previous speakers of the House, both Newt Gingrich and Boehner, have endorsed Paul Ryan, as well as members of the House as well. And the Senate leader has also endorsed Donald Trump. So the bottom line is that how fine line does Ryan walk to say he's not going to endorse Donald Trump just yet? He's playing his cards close to his vest because he knows that once Donald Trump comes in, his leadership goes away.
So wait a second. You said endorse Donald Trump just yet. Is that just yet important?
That just yet is important to Paul Ryan, but he better watch out because he has an opponent. And if the Tea Party folks or the people who have voted for Trump sees that Paul Ryan is being an obstructionist, they may go and support his opponent, and he may be like Eric Cantor and not be in a leadership position or in the House.
All right, as far as Donald Trump's concerned, is it possible for an outsider to win the White House without being an insider?
Well, in Donald Trump's case, he has a little bit of differences going on with him because he supported many of these people in office. So he knows a little bit about how politics works from the people that are giving contributions, not so much in running the political scheme and strategies of it. But he's known enough thus far to get him the most votes of any other Republican candidate running in a presidential primary thus far. He hasn't needed Romney's endorsement, he hasn't needed Ryan's endorsement, or the establishment endorsement to get to where he's gotten. Now keep in mind too, Romney has been the biggest opponent to Donald Trump. Paul Ryan was Romney's running mate. Is Paul Ryan doing this to help Mitt Romney? It's to be seen. It
is to be seen, and that begs the question whether or not there's going to be a third-party candidate, but that's for another discussion. We talked about the fact that Donald Trump is, some people say flip-flopping, but I say moderating his stance on certain things. Is that just his political reality in order to further his candidacy?
Well, it could be, as well as reality in what's the game plan as to how to get things accomplished, because he needs to win the election. He'll wrap up the nomination, but winning the election is going to be something else. So he needs to appeal to his base as well as the crossover voters. He's brought people into the GOP thus far in this primary election that would have never come in if it wasn't for Donald Trump. So that should be embraced by Paul Ryan and a GOP establishment that is against Donald Trump. However, Donald Trump also needs to understand the realities of things. You can't promise too much and underdeliver because his first term is going to be very tumultuous.
He's also seen the latest polls, which basically show Hillary Clinton with a big lead in a typical Clinton-Trump matchup. But a Quinnipiac poll that came out on Tuesday, I think it was, shows that in the key swing states of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and right here in Florida, it's a statistical tie, so we'll have to wait and see.
You got it.
Jennifer Carroll,
It's going to be
thanks.
interesting.